Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you watch Danny Quinn. Everything is awesome. Hi, I'm Danny Quinn, and welcome to another episode of First Impressions. On today's episode, I take a look at the second part of the Lego Movie 2 to see if it's just as awesome as its predecessor. This film pretty much picks up where the Lego Movie left off, where Bricksburg has now fallen into ruins following the Diplo invasion from 5 years ago. Despite this, Emmett Brakowski, voiced by Chris Pratt, maintains his optimistic and cheery demeanour while everyone around him has toughened themselves up. When his friends, including Elizabeth Banks' Lucy, aka Wildstyle, Will Arnett's Batman, aka Bruce Wayne, Alison Brie's Princess Unikitty, Charlie Day's Benny, and Nick Offerman's Metalbeard are abducted by the shape-shifting Queen Whatever Wannabe, voiced by Tiffany Haddish. Emmett is forced to embark on another adventure and team up with the intrepid and cynical adventurer Rex Dangervest, also voiced by Chris Pratt, in order to save his friends and stop the dreaded Armageddon. The Lego Movie is pretty much one of the biggest surprises from 2014, in a year that was full of pretty surprisingly good films like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and Guardians of the Galaxy. The Lego Movie still managed to stand on its own 2 feet as one of the most inventive, funny and creative movies to come out in recent years. It's very much a film that could have went the same way as, heaven forbid, the Emoji Movie or the Smurfs, but instead it ended up being one of the most endearing animated movies since perhaps Toy Story 3. And I still think that the Lego Batman movie from a couple of years ago is easily one of the best Batman movies, and possibly the best Batman movie we've gotten since The Dark Knight Rises. Maybe even The Dark Knights. Sadly, I didn't quite get to see Lego Ninjago when it came out, but aside from that, I've been a pretty big fan of the Lego movies, and I was definitely looking forward to seeing how the actual sequel, the Lego Movie 2, would turn out. Going into this film, I was very confident that the filmmakers could recreate the same level of quality of the previous Lego movies, and at the very least recapture some of the magic and spark that made those movies work. And after seeing this, all I can say is, wow, the Lego Movie 2 is awesome. Absolutely awesome. Easily the best movie I've seen so far this year. Considering what I have seen so far this year, that's probably not saying much, but believe me, it is really damn good. Although from the start I was admittedly a little apprehensive about the film. I was a little bit worried that the film was falling into the typical sequel trap of resetting the characters back to where they were at the beginning of the first film. And it does kind of feel like there's a little bit of that here, especially with how everyone treats Emmett. Even though he pretty much saved the world the last time around, he's still treated like dirt by most of the residents of Bricksburg. And in the early stages, it does feel like they were trying to put Emmett back to square one by making him this boring nobody that didn't really have that much imagination like he was in the first movie. But I think those initial worries subsided pretty quickly, largely because the movie really builds upon what the first movie kind of toyed around with. There's more live action bits in this entry. Finn, the kid from the first movie, has a much bigger role this time around, and is sort of in this rivalry with his younger sister Bianca over who can actually play with the Lego. And it does spill over into the conflict of the story. I'm not going to go too much in detail since I think it is kind of going into spoiler territory somewhat, but the writing and overall story of this film is just as clever and as imaginative as it was in the first movie. It's very poignant and sobering, and I think it will appeal to older audiences just as much as it will to kids. It's also a very entertaining sequel, and just like the Lego Movie and the Lego Batman movie before it, it's jam-packed full of great humour, tons of visual details, loads of pop culture references, and moments where they just straight up take the piss. There's of course the typical references to Batman and his history on film, and they also poke fun at Chris Pratt's superstardom that has blossomed ever since he appeared in the first Lego Movie, right down to the fact that the new character he's playing in the sequel, Rex Dangervest, is basically like an amalgamation of all the different characters he's played since he became super big, even going as far as to make him a dinosaur whisperer. I've also noticed that I don't really tend to talk much about music on this channel, especially when it comes to soundtracks, which is kind of a shame because I really fucking love film soundtracks. They're easily some of my favourite aspects of a film. Sometimes they can even be the redeeming elements of certain films, and this movie is no exception. The soundtrack is just as fun and delightful to listen to as the first soundtrack, Maybe even more so. I just love the aptly named catchy song, even though it's pretty much a great big unsubtle piss take against vapid synthesized and overly commercialized pop jingles. And Tiffany Haddish's song Not Evil is just a real delight to listen to. It just serves as a terrific introduction to the character of Queen Whatever Wannabe and sets up the mysterious nature of the character very well. Speaking of the characters, they're just as entertaining and lovable as they were in the first movie. Chris Pratt still brings a lot of charm to the role of Emmett and also does a superb job in the role of Rex Dangervest. Will Arnett once again knocks it out of the park as Batman. Elizabeth Banks is also pretty entertaining as Wildstyle, aka Lucy. Alison Brie is still absolutely terrific as Unikitty, who is easily one of my favourite characters from the Lego movie. Charlie Day and Nick Offerman are still a ton of fun to watch as Benny and Metalbeard. And there's also a lot of fun cameos like Margot Robbie reprising her role as Harley Quinn and Jason Momoa reprising his role as my man Aquaman. And as far as new characters go, my favourite is easily Queen Whatever Wannabe. I'm just gonna call her Queen Whatever I Wanna Be because saying Queen Whatever Wannabe is kind of taxing on the tongue. When she's introduced, she's set up as this very mysterious and enigmatic character and you're not really sure whether she's trustworthy or not. She puts out this big musical number and you're just sitting there thinking the whole time she's gonna do something later on in the film. You know it's coming. And then the movie really surprises you in a genuinely clever and subversive way. It doesn't feel like a plot twist that's tacked on or slapped on without much thought. It genuinely feels like a very clever and thought-provoking twist that does actually turn the movie on its head in a playful and unique way. And it helps to tie into the overarching themes of the story very effectively. In fact, that's probably one of the movie's biggest strengths and one of the reasons why I love it so much. It tackles the topic of growing up and maturing in a very matter-of-fact and very poignant way. Hell, I don't think I've seen a film that's tackled it so well since perhaps Toy Story 3. I'm honestly kind of surprised that critics are just saying that it's not quite as fresh as the original. It just sort of seems like the critics are just saying that as your typical buzzwords for any sequel to any beloved film. Well, it was great, but it's not as fresh or as innovative as the first one. So what? It's still a great film, and when all is said and done, I'm gonna give the Lego Movie 2, the second part, a light 9 out of 10. In fact, the more I think about it, the more I realise this movie is honestly just as good as the Lego Movie. Maybe even a little bit more so in a couple of areas. I'm not sure, I'm kind of flip-flopping between the two. Nevertheless, I strongly recommend both movies equally, and if you haven't seen the Lego Batman movie yet for whatever reason, watch it too. It's an absolute blast. And while my review for it is pretty hideous looking back on it, I still stand by it as far as my opinion is concerned. All I can say now is that if the Lego Movie 3 is made and it matches the quality of the first two films, I think we might have a new contender for the best animated trilogy ever. So the Lego Movie 2, have you seen it yet? If so, what did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you once again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like, leave a comment, maybe even subscribe to my channel while you're at it. If there's anything I can do to improve my presentation, do let me know. I'm always happy to hear feedback as long as it's somewhat constructive. If you want to follow me on social media or support me on Patreon or check out my website, links below down in the description. And until next time, I'm Danny Quinn, and I hope you have a pleasant evening.